So, good evening, guys, and welcome to interview preparation session, which has been conducting by 360 DMG. And in today's session, we'll just go through some of the questions which they have been asked in recent interviews and all. These were from online source itself. So, as we all know, so as of now, first question for the day, guys: how is memory managed in Python? Like, how does the memory management has is done in Python? So, if anyone knows the answer, can ping me in the chat box, and we'll discuss the answer within a minute. Yeah. So as we look into this, how does the memory has been managed in Python? So Python Memory Manager, it basically handles memory management in Python. So this memory is allocated by the manager in the form of private heap space for Python. So all Python objects stores in this heap space are private. Anybody, most of them can't access them. They have been privately protected. Hence, it is accessible to the programmer until the time Python provides some core API functions to work upon the private heap space. So that's how the Python spaces has been managed in it. So as we jump into the next question, what are Python namespaces? So if anyone knows the answer, can ping me in the chat box, and we'll discuss the answer within a minute. Yeah. So as we look into this, what are these Python namespaces? A Python, it is a feature of Python that makes sure that an object in a program which has some unique can be used without any conflict. So namespaces, these namespaces as dictionaries and are also called as name of a key. So they have been mapped to a corresponding object as well as a value. So this allow for multiple namespaces to use the same name. They basically use the same name in the map. It has to be separated object. So as we jump into the next question, how many Python namespaces are there? So if anyone knows the answer, can ping me in the chat box and we'll discuss the answer within a minute. Yeah. As we look into this, there are three types of Python namespaces, and there are local namespace, global namespace, and built-in namespace. So as we jump into the next question, what are Python namespaces? Why, for what they have been used? Why they have been used? So if anyone knows the answer, can ping me in the chat box, and we'll discuss the answer within a minute. So as we look into this namespaces is temporarily created for a function called, and they can get some global names like which have been cleared in the time of when the function fit. So this global names is created from important packages in the script and lasts till the time execution of a script isn't complete. So and these built-in names are included in the built-in functions of core Python and built-in names and names for various types of exceptions. So as we jump into the next question, what is scope in Python? So if anyone knows the answer, can ping me in the chat box, and we'll discuss the answer within a. Yeah. So as we look into this, a scope is a block of code which basically determines the relevancy of objects and Python namespaces. So identically, all the objects inside a program is a unique. It has a unique way. So although Python namespaces also have some defined scopes where their objects can be used without any prefix. And name some of the examples, like a few examples of scopes created during the code execution in Python. So as we jump into the next question, what is scope resolution in Python? So if anyone knows the answer, can ping me in the chat box and we'll discuss the answer within a minute. So as we look into this, what is the Python scope resolution in Python? What is this? How does it look like? So scope resolution is an essential in this time of using variable to determine the possible sources of it. So when you are being going across the scope resolution in Python, it does follow some rule which is called as LEGB rule, where each and every alphabet has its own meaning and own procedure, where L stands for local, E stands for enclosing function, G stands for global, and B stands for building local. So these names assigned in any way within a function and not declared globally in that particular function is called as a local rule. So whereas E stands for it is a local scope of any and all statistically enclosed functions or lambdas from inner to outer. G stands for global and it is used for the top level module file or by executing a global statement in a defined within the file. And the B stands for building. These were the building names modules with some open ranges, syntaxes, etc. So as we jump into the next question, what are decorators in Python? So if anyone knows the answer, can ping me in the chat box and we'll discuss the answer within a minute. Yeah. So as we look into this, a decorator it is designed in a pattern in such a way that it is used to a Python to allow the users in terms of adding new functionalities to an existing object without modifying its structure. It just tries to add some new functionalities without modifying its structure. So usually these decorators should be called before you define a function and you can't be decorated. So as we jump into the next question, what are the list and tuples? So if anyone knows the answer, try to ping me in the chat box and we'll discuss the answer with
So if you look into this, what are list and tuples? As you all know, list and tuples, those are the data types. So list and tuples are sequential data types of Python. They can store collection of objects. The objects stored in both the sequences can have different data types. So as we jump into the next question, what are difference between list and a tuple? What's the main difference between? So anyone knows the answer, try to ping me in the chat box, and we'll discuss the answer within a minute.
Yeah. So as we look into this, there are the main difference between list and tuples are list are mutable objects, whereas tuples are immutable objects. List are present represented with square braces, whereas tuples are presented with parentheses. So these were the few main differences between this list and tuples. So as we jump into the next question, what are the dictionaries and list comprehensions? So if anyone knows the answer, try to ping me in the chat box, and we'll discuss the answer within a minute. Yeah. So as we look into this, just like decorators, Python comprehensions too are some constraints with help in building alternative and filtering all the list dictionaries or sets from a given list dictionaries or set. So while using these comprehensions, the user saves a lot of time and those types of codes that might contain more line of codes. So this is how the comprehension does works in Python. So as we jump into the next question, what are the common built-in data types in Python? So if anyone knows the answer, can ping me in the chat box, and we'll discuss the answer within a minute. So as we look into this, what are these common building data types in Python? So there are several building data types in Python. Some of them have been mentioned here, and those are non-type, numerical type, set, mapping, sequence, modules, callable type. So these are some of the building data types we use in this Python. So as we jump into the next question, what is Lambda in Python? So if anyone knows the answer, try to ping me in the chat box, and we'll discuss the answer within a minute. So as we look into this, lambda is an anonymous function, as you all know, and in Python, so that can accept a huge number of arguments while having only one single expression. It is mainly used in situations that demand any anonymous functions for a short period of time. So as we jump into the next question, what are shallow and deep copies? So if anyone knows the answer, can ping me in the chat box, and we'll discuss the answer within a minute. Yeah. So as we look into this, shallow copies is a bitwise copies and of an object that contains an exact copy of the values in an original object. So if either of the values is a reference to those objects, the reference address for some of the objects were being copied. These are called as shallowed copies. So deep copies are values or loops and they have been targeting some objects. It is also capable of duplicating the objects referred from the by the source object. So as we jump into the next question, what are the modules and packages in Python? So if anyone knows the answer, try to ping me in the chat box, and we'll discuss the answer in a minute. Yeah. So as we look into this, modules are Python files that have a .py extension. As you all know, the Python extension is .py extension. So without that particular extension, we can't save even a Python file, and capable of having a set of functions, classes, or variables defined and implemented. So they can be imported and initialized when the user use the important statements. So packages allow the hierarchical structures of a module namespace. So with the help of dot notation, the way those modules help avoid classes between all the global variables packages helps avoid the classes between the module names in the same way. So as we jump into the next question, what are the advantages of modular programming in Python? So if anyone knows the answer, try to ping me in the chat box and we'll discuss the answer within a minute. Yeah. So as we look into this modular programs, Pythons have several advantages like simplicity, maintainability, reusability, scoping. So these were some of the advantages of using this modular Python language. Simplicity, what does it work? So if you have been working on some modules, it helps us to focus on some relatable small portion of hand. So this makes deployment easier and there is a rare position of errors. So if you come across this maintainability, these modules are designed to use local boundaries between different problem domains, so hence they can't impact each other. So reusability, functions defined in a module can be reused by another parts of applications. Scoping, so the modules defined a separate namespace, and they have been avoiding some confusion between these identifiers from other parts of the program. So these were the few advantages for this modular programming. So that's it for the day, guys. Thanks for watching and we'll meet in the next session. Till then, have a great day, guys. Bye.